Now, this is the seventh question of TMUA 2023 exam paper 2. This is actually a very interesting question. It says the graph of line AX plus BY equal to C is drawn, where A, B, C are real non-zero constants. Which one of the following is a necessary but not sufficient condition for the line to have a positive gradient, which is positive slope, and positive y-intercept? Okay. Now here the equation of the line is AX plus BY is equal to C. So I can write y is equal to minus A by B x plus C by B. Here slope or gradient which is slope or gradient is minus A by B. Equation is of the form y equal to mx plus C, where C is the y-intercept. Not this C, but the equation is of that form, and y-intercept is C by B. Okay. That is C by B. So I have slope or gradient and y-intercept. Now I have been given that both of them are positive. That means minus A by B is positive. Also C by B is positive. That means A upon B is negative and C by B is positive. I have this condition to work from. If both of them become true, this becomes necessary and sufficient both. I want to give an answer option which is necessary but not sufficient. You have to understand the meaning of this. Just to quickly tell you the meaning of this, what you can think of is, let's say I have x square is equal to 4. Okay. Now, if I say x is equal to 2, x equal to 2 is a sufficient condition for this to be true. Okay. But not necessarily, because x equal to minus 2 also satisfies this. Okay. So the difference between necessary and sufficient is that if x is equal to 2, it is a sufficient condition, but not necessary. But if I write x is equal to plus minus 2, that means x is plus or minus 2 both. Then this is both a necessary and sufficient condition. Okay. In this question, we have to figure out a situation where the condition is necessary but not sufficient. Let me also give you an example for that scenario. Let us say I have written 2x is equal to 2. Okay. Now, if I say x can be 0 or 1, x can be 0 or 1. Now, what is this? Is this a necessary condition? No, because necessarily x has to be 1. But it is a sufficient condition. Yeah, x can be 0 or 1. Okay, so this can be a sufficient condition here. Okay, but not necessary. Because if x can be 0 and 1 or 1, then 2x can be. Okay, so what we have to figure out is, we have to say that this has to be true. This has to be true, and the situation should be that it should be a necessary condition and not a, or sufficient condition and not a necessary one. This is a necessary condition but not a sufficient. So now if I look at the first one, C by B is greater than 0 and A by B is less than 0. This actually gives this, that A by B is less than 0 and C by B is greater than 0. So if both of them are true, that means this is a necessary and sufficient condition both. So if it is both necessary and sufficient, it is not correct here. Okay. Because I only want necessary but not a sufficient. Now it says option B says C by B is less than 0 and A by B is greater than 0. Now C by B is less than 0, A by B greater than 0. This is actually incorrect. This is neither necessary nor sufficient. Okay. So B is also ruled out. Then A is greater than B is greater than C. So if I have A greater than B is greater than C. Okay. In this case, C by B, C upon B. If I assume that B is 5 and C is minus 2, B is greater than C. Okay. Then what is C by B? Minus 2 by 5. Minus 2 by 5 is negative. So this is not coming out to be a necessary or sufficient condition, because C by B has to be positive. So this is also ruled out. Option D says A is less than B is less than C. A is less than B and B is less than C. Again here, I can have a situation, let's say, B is -3 and C is -2 or C is +1. C is +1. What is C by B here? C by B is 1 upon -3. 1 upon -3 is less than 0. But I want C by B to be greater than 0. So this condition also doesn't hold, neither on the necessary side or the sufficient side. Option E says A and C have opposite signs. Now let's see here, A and C has opposite signs. Now if A by B is less than 0 and C by B is greater than 0, B will have the same sign in both the situations. Okay, but A by B becomes negative and C by B becomes positive. That means A and C have opposite signs. This is true. A and B have opposite signs. So this has to be necessarily true. If A by B is less than 0 and C by B is greater than 0, if B is positive, let's say, if B is positive, A becomes negative and C becomes positive. So A and C will have different signs, opposite signs. If B is negative, A becomes positive and C becomes negative. Again, A and C have opposite signs. So A and C will definitely have opposite signs. So this is a necessary condition. But is it sufficient? It is not sufficient, because we also need to know the sign of B for this thing to be entirely true. Okay. If I say A is positive and C is negative. If C is negative, if let's say B is positive, in that case, this will not hold, because C by B will become negative and A by B will become positive. Okay. But definitely A positive and C negative, or A negative and C positive have to happen. We have already concluded it. Okay. So this has to happen. Further, for this to be true, I need the sign of B as well. So this condition over here is necessary, but not sufficient. Because it is not sufficient, because I still need to know the sign of B to this, for this to be entirely sure of this to be true. So answer option E says A and C have opposite signs is correct. Let's check for answer option F. A and C have the same sign. This is not coming out to, because they have opposite signs. So answer option E is the correct answer option. It's quite a tricky question. You need to know the difference between necessary and sufficient completely. Many students give answer option A as the answer. They solve it and then they say that this is correct, because this is what you have to ultimately come to. But if you have to come to this, and if I say that this is correct, then this is both necessary and sufficient. Okay, I want necessary, but which is still not sufficient. That means if you say necessary and not sufficient, means the necessary part has to be true, but it is still not sufficient to go to the final conclusion. Okay, so answer option E is correct.